Welcome everyone to Bookaccino Live for October, and we are so excited to have you here. We have a huge line of books going into the beginning of January as well. Yes, we're forecasting ahead what's going on. So let's get this party started. So these were your top picks from September's afternoon presentation. All This Could Be Yours by Hank Phillippi Ryan, Pictures of Him by Claire Leslie Hall, which the first two books I absolutely loved. I absolutely loved. I'm going to talk a little bit more pictures of him a little bit later on. John Grisham's The Widow, Ellen Hilderbrand's The Academy, which I also enjoyed. Dan Brown, The Secret of Secrets, which I have downstairs. Louise Penny's The Black Wolf, and John Irving's Queen Esther. So all these books are in my house right now and making me feel guilty for about the ones I have not read. So that was from the afternoon presentation. Then we did an evening fall presentation. I want to share the titles there. Once again, Hank Phillippi Ryan's All This Could Be Yours was number one. John Grisham's The Widow, Louise Penny's The Black Wolf, Dan Brown's The Secret of Secrets, Ellen Hilderbrand's The Academy, Mitch Albom's Twice, and John Irving, Queen Esther. So we always like to do this and just see like what you're most interested in reading. And we know that those attend live sent the questionnaire later on to ask them, the survey later to see what they're most interested in. Enjoy this. Okay, let's start with some fiction. We're going to start with Jan Karen. Oh my gosh, this is the long-awaited 15th installment in her Mitford series, My Beloved. When Father Tim's wife Cynthia asks him what he wants for Christmas, he pens the answer in a love letter that bears his most private feelings. Then the letter goes missing and circulates among his astonished neighbors. So much for private. Can a letter change a life? Ask Helene, the piano teacher who has avoided her feelings for a lifetime. Ask Hope, the village bookseller who desperately needs something that's impossibly out of reach. Or if you'd like to know how to brush with death can be the portal to a happy marriage, Cynthia will tell you all about it. In My Beloved, Harley gets an important letter of his own. A broken heart teaches the old mayor, Esther Cunningham, a lesson that's been a long time coming. And that's to Lace and Dooley. Readers get what they've been waiting for. Sadie. So there you go. Anybody who's a Jan Karen lover, this is for you. And as we go through this presentation, I want you to be thinking about gift giving as well, because it's not too soon to be thinking about that. So think about people in your family and friends that would enjoy getting books. Next from Mitch Albom, we've got Twice, which is also the Good Morning America Book Club pick, and it's our current word of mouth pick, which I'll have a little bit on in a couple of minutes. When he's 8 years old, Alfie Logan discovers a magical ability to get a second chance at everything. He can undo any moment and live it again. The one catch, he must accept the consequences of his second try, for better or worse. Eventually, Alfie turns his gift to his love life. Oh, did we see that coming? Studying his crushes and going back to make himself more appealing. In time, he falls deeply in love with Gianna, a woman that he believes is the one. He seems to find contentment, but as the years pass, Alfie's eye begins to wander, which is when he learns a lone caveat to his power. Once he undoes a love, the person can never fall in love with him again. Knowing that if he gives in to temptation, he will risk losing what he has with Gianna, Alfie makes a choice that changes his life forever. So there we've got Twice. And it's like, what if you could do everything in your life again? Next from we've got Remain from Nicholas Sparks and M. Night Shyamalan, which is coming from Random House on October 14th. When New York architect Tate Donovan arrives in Cape Cod to design his best friend's summer home, he's hoping to make a fresh start. Recently discharged from an upscale psychiatric facility where he was treated for acute depression, he's still wrestling with the pain of losing his beloved sister. Sylvia's deathbed revelation that she can see spirits who are still tethered to the living world, a gift that runs in their family, sits uneasily with Tate, who struggles to believe in more than what reason can explain. But when Tate takes up residence in a historic bed and breakfast on the Cape, he encounters a beautiful young woman named Wren, who will change every assumption that he had about his logical and controlled world. Tate and Wren find themselves forging an immediate connection, but Tate gradually discovers that beneath the surface of Wren's idyllic small town life, Hatred, jealousy, and greed are festering, threatening their fragile relationship just as it begins to blossom. I always love to figure out where authors come up with the names. Where did you come up with Tate and Wren? And I know a lot of authors, as they're working on their books, are looking if it's a period book, what names it would be. There's certain names that wouldn't be happening during that time. Of course, these days it seems like any name goes, but it's interesting to see like how that would happen. Next, we've got Workhorse by Carolyn Palmer, and this is like probably number 2 or 3 on my book pile right now. At the turn of the millennium, editorial assistant Chloe Harmon wants nothing more than to rise to the ranks of the world's most prestigious fashion magazine. There's just one problem. She doesn't have the right pedigree. Instead, Chloe is a workhorse, surrounded by beautiful, wealthy, and possibly well-connected show horses who get ahead without effort, including her beguiling cubicle mate, Davis Lawrence, the daughter of a beloved but fading Broadway actress. Harry Wood, Davis's boarding school classmate and a reporter with visions of his own media empire, might be Chloe's ally in gaming the system, or he might be the only thing standing between Chloe and her right place at the top. This is a look back at magazine land the way it was at the turn of the millennium. And it's going to be, I know, raucously fun. So it's my color. I mean, like, really, this book was designed for me. Next, from Debbie Macomber, we've got A Very Merry Christmas. It's coming on October 21st because in the book world, we think about holiday books in October to make sure they're in the stores, the boxes opened, and them shelved, because starting in December, no one has time for that. So here we've got Avery and Reed Bond grew up sharing a close-knit relationship. Even so, Avery often finds herself exasperated by her brother's relentless matchmaking, while Reed can't resist teasing his sister. Facing their very first Christmas without their beloved Grams, the woman who lovingly raised them, Reed and Avery decide to spend the holiday together at Reed's house. However, their plan takes an unexpected turn when the ferry Avery is traveling on stalls in the middle of Puget Sound. Been there, can picture this. Stranding its passengers and leaving Reed waiting a now undetermined length of time for her arrival. What is first looked at as an inconvenience that threatens to ruin the plans on a number of commuters, but Avery and Reed soon discover this unforeseen delay might end up being a perfectly timed blessing in disguise. So there's A Very Merry Christmas. Wonder how long she's been noodling that title. Next, we've got The Land of Sweet Forever by Harper Lee, coming on October 21st. This combines Harper Lee's early short story fiction and later a nonfiction in a volume that offers unprecedented look at the development of her inimitable voice. Covering territory from the Alabama schoolyards of Lee's youth to the luncheonettes and movie houses of mid-century Manhattan, the book invites still vital conversations about politics, equality, travel, love, fiction, art, the American South, and what it means to lead an engaged and creative life. The collection comes with an introduction by Casey Sepp, Harper Lee's appointed biographer, which provides illuminating background for our reading of these stories and connects them both to Lee's life and to her new novels, To Kill a Mockingbird and Go Set a Watchman. So there you've got a collection of stories and essays. Next, we've got Wreck from Catherine Newman. Oh, yes. How many people liked her last book? Come on, come on. I know you like Sandwich. So it's coming on October 28th. And if you loved Rocky and her family on vacation on Cape Cod, wait till you join them at home 2 years later. And if this is your first meeting with this crew, get ready to laugh, cry, and relate. Rocky's still anxious, nostalgic, and funny, is living in Western Massachusetts with her husband, Nick, and their daughter, Willa, who's home after college. Their son, Jamie, has taken a new job in New York, and Mort, Rocky's widowed father, has moved in. It all couldn't be more ridiculously normal until Rocky finds herself obsessed with a local accident that only tangentially affects them, and with a medical condition that she hopes won't affect them all. So there we've got Wreck from Catherine Newman. Next, we've got Bitter Honey from Lola Akamadi, and I have read her previous books and really enjoyed them. This is on sale on November 4th, and if you recognize her name, she was going before as Lola Akamadi Ackerstrom. I think she decided to shorten it and make it easier. 1978, a scholarship draws Nancy from Gambia's warmth into Stockholm's frigid winter. When her friendship with the charismatic scholar Lars blossoms into something more, she thinks she finally may have found her place. But there's more to Lars than his charming persona, and Nancy's about to discover the danger of being drawn into his world. In 2006, Tina has had her taste of fame as Sweden's sweetheart pop princess, representing her country at Eurovision. But beneath her glittery facade, she's uncertain who she really is. Her mother, Nancy, seems desperate to keep the past under wraps. But will the unexpected appearance of Tina's father, a man she has long since thought dead, help to open the door to self discovery? Nancy just wants to protect her daughter from making the same mistakes she did, but Tina longs for the freedom to mess up. And the two women love each other unconditionally, but can they learn to trust each other as well? So there's Bitter Honey. Next, we've got The Christmas Stranger from Richard Paul Evans, coming November 4th. 3 years after losing his family in a Christmas Eve accident, grieving Paul Wanless hasn't given up on Christmas. He's given up on life. When a stranger knocks on his door, claiming to be picking up a laptop, Paul allows him in, but discovers the man has a very different mission in mind. The mysterious stranger's name is Gabriel, and when Paul finds himself opening up to his visitor, Gabriel tells him, "I wouldn't if I were you. It's not what you think." He then departs without a word. Paul brushes the experience aside as some trick of imagination until he crosses paths with a young widow and her bullied son, who've recently received a visit from Gabriel. Before he knows it, these two will fill his life with chaos, commotion, and excitement, the kind he hasn't felt in years. Three of them are convinced that Gabriel brought them together for a reason. But why? Or who or what really is this Christmas stranger? So there we got a Christmas story from Richard Paul Evans. Next, we've got The 11th Hour from Salman Rushdie, also coming on November 4th. Salman Rushdie turns his extraordinary imagination to his life's final act with a quintet of stories that span the three countries in which he has made his work: India, England, and America. In the South, he introduces a pair of quarrelsome old men and their private tragedy at a moment of national calamity. In Music of Kahani, a music prodigy from the Mumbai neighborhood featured in Midnight's Children uses her magic gifts to wreak devastation on the wealthy family she marries into. In Late, the ghost of Cambridge Dawn's elite, I'm sorry, the ghost of the Cambridge Dawn enlists the help of a lonely student to enact revenge upon the tormentor of his lifetime. Oklahoma plunges a young writer into a web of deceit and lies as he tries to figure out whether his mentor killed himself or faked his own death. And The Old Man in Piazza is a parable for our times about freedom of speech. So there's The 11th Hour. Next, we've got Ladies in Waiting by various authors. It's coming on November 4th, and it's in honor of Jane Austen's 250th birthday. 9 authors: Adriana Trajani, Sarah McLean, Elisa James, Eleanor Littman, Audrey Bolezia, Karen Kess, Emily Harding, Nikki Payne, and Diana Quincy have come together with wildly imaginative reboots of the lives of several of Austen's minor characters. This is written with plenty of love and wit, and these clever stories star everyone from Pride and Prejudice's snobbish Carolyn Bingley to the modern descent of Sense and Sensibility's Eliza Williams, and much more. Exploring genres and taking us across the oceans, it's a heartfelt celebration of Jane Austen and her timeless masterpieces. And I say a book like this is perfect for this time of year when we start to have a lot to do and you can just read a chapter at a time. It was featured during our book group speed dating session because we thought it would, the publisher thought it would be something that would be of interest to book clubs, and we think so as well. So there you've got Ladies in Waiting. Next, we've got some historical fiction. We're starting out by Shadow Ticket with Thomas Pynchon, which is on sale this week. It's his first novel since 2013's Bleeding Edge. In Milwaukee in 1932, the Great Depression is going full blast. The repeal of Prohibition is just around the corner, Al Capone is in the federal pen, and the private investigation business shifts from labor management relations to the more domestic kind. Hicks McTarget, a one-time strikebreaker turned private eye, thinks he's found job security until he gets sent out on what should be a routine case, locating and bringing back the heiress of a Wisconsin cheese fortune who's taken a mind to go wandering. Before he knows it, he's been shanghaied on a transoceanic liner, eventually ending up in Hungary. By the time Hicks catches up with the runaway heiress, he will find himself entangled with Nazis, Soviet agents, British counterspies, swing musicians, practitioners of the paranormal, outlaw motorcyclists, and the troubles that come with each of them. So there you've got a big cast of characters that is going to be following Hicks around. Next, from Philippa Gregory, we've got The Boleyn Traitor, which is coming in October 14th. Jane Boleyn watches from the shadows of the Tudor court, where secrets are currency, every choice is dangerous, and even the faintest whisper can seal the fate of queens. For Jane, survival demands playing every role required of her. A loving wife who conceals her doubts, a devoted sister to Anne Boleyn at the height of her power, and an obedient spy who carefully wields her words. But in a court ruled by ambition and a tyrant's sword, Jane must rely on her sharp wit and skillful maneuvering to outwit those about her, knowing one wrong move could cost her everything. So we've got sister, liar, witness, spy. Next, we've got a book from Adam Johnson called The Wayfinder, which he is the Pulitzer Prize winning author of The Orphan Master's Son. It's coming on October 14th. Talking corpses, poetic parrots, and a fan that wafts the breath of life. This is the world that young Correo finds herself thrust into when a mystery visitor lands on her island, a place so remote that its inhabitants have forgotten the word for stranger. Her people are desperate and on the brink of starvation, and the wayward stranger offers them an impossible choice. They can remain in the only home they've ever known and await the uncertainty to come, or she can join him and venture into unfamiliar waters, guided only by the night sky and his assurance of a bountiful future in the kingdom of Tonga. What Carrero and her people don't know is the promised refuge is no utopia. Instead, it's an empire at war and on the verge of collapse. Together, the stranger, Guerrero embark on an epic voyage, one that will deliver them either to salvation or to the depths of the Pacific. So there you've got the Wayfinder. Next, we've got Last Call at the Savoy by Brissa Carlton. I am really looking forward to this book. I read part of it, and we know that she's going to be working with us on some special things to come, and it's coming out on November 4th. 6 years ago, Cinnamon Scott was a young writer at the Rise in New York City. But since the sudden loss of her parents, she's been stuck in place, retreating to a life of endless partying made possible by the massive fortune she's inherited. Despite their tragic loss, she and her older sister Rosemary have always had each other to lean on to. But now, with Rosie living in London and about to give birth to twins, Cinnamon feels more lost than ever. When Rosie's put on bed rest, Cinnamon flies to her sister's side, where she's temporarily living at the Savoy. Immediately swept away by the beauty and history of the legendary hotel and its famed American bar, Cinnamon finds ample opportunity to distract herself. When the late shift bartender tells her the story of Ada Coleman, a woman who crafted the cocktails recipes that the Savoy popularized in its famous handbook a century ago, Cinnamon is inspired by the bartender's vivid stories of Ada's fearlessness and can't understand why Ada's name is nowhere to be found. So there we've got cocktails and life at the Savoy. Jodi Picoult said, "Life is a cocktail in this to this debut. No, lift a cocktail to this debut." And I do agree from what I've read so far. Also, Brissa has a line of vodka as well, which makes it really interesting. I'm doing an interview with her because I want to hear more about her backstory of where she was on Broadway and to where she is today with selling vodka and Last Call at the Savoy. So very much looking forward to this. Yes, we will be lifting cocktails. Next from John Irving, we've got Queen Esther, also coming on November 4th. Esther Nack is born in Vienna in 1905. Her father dies on board the ship to Portland, Maine. Her mother is murdered by anti-Semites in Portland. Dr. Larch knows it won't be easy to find a Jewish family to adopt Esther. In fact, he won't find any family who will adopt her. When Esther is 14, soon to be a ward of the state, Dr. Larch meets the Winslows, a philanthropic New England family with a history of providing foster care to unadopted orphans. The Winslows aren't Jewish, but they despise anti-Semitism. Esther's gratitude for the Winslows is unending. Even as she retraces her roots back to Vienna, she never stopped loving and protecting the Winslows. In a final chapter set in Jerusalem in 1981, Esther Nack is 76. It's going to be really interesting to see how this story develops. Now we've got some thrillers and mysteries. I'm going to start with The Hitchhikers, coming from Chevy Stevens, and I've got to get my hands on this one. It's the summer of 1976, and Alice and Tom set out on the remote Canadian highways in their new RV, hoping to heal their broken hearts after a devastating tragedy. Plan the trip perfectly and taken up care of every detail. When they meet two young hitchhikers down on their luck and offer them a ride, they see what's going to happen next because Simon and Jenny aren't what they seem. They left a trail of blood, destruction, and madness behind them. And now Alice and Tim are trapped, prisoners in a deadly game with nowhere to turn. As the tension builds, the lines blur, and the question becomes, in whose heart does evil truly lie? What secrets are Jenny and Simon hiding? And who will live another day? Chevy hasn't written a book for a while. She wrote Still Missing, and Those Girls were out a while ago. And I have to just say that she usually sculpts a book that's got a lot of intrigue, a lot of twists and turns, and a lot of who can you really trust. So The Hitchhiker sounds like it's got all that. Next, from Patricia Cornwell, we've got Sharp Force, which is a Scarpetta novel, also out this week. In the early hours of Christmas morning, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kay Scarpetta receives a chilling call. The phantom slasher has struck again. The serial killer has terrorized Northern Virginia for months. His pattern is to stalk with a sophisticated technology that enables him to invade his victims' homes and watch their every move. They wake up to a ghost-like hologram before being murdered in their beds. Scarpetta is summoned to Mercy Island, the site of a notorious psychiatric hospital where two people have been brutalized, one of them from Scarpetta's past. It soon becomes apparent that she could be next. So there we've got Sharp Force. What a way to spend Christmas. Next, we've got The Gallery Assistant by Kate Belly. I had the pleasure of reading this over the summer break. It's coming on October 14th, and it's a really interesting story. November 2001, Coley Harlow wakes up late with hazy memories of a party the night before, but no recollection of how she got back to her Brooklyn apartment. She arrives at the exclusive Upper East Side art gallery where she works. She's immediately called into her boss's office. A pair of NYPD detectives greet her, also very curious to know how her evening ended, because the host of the party, a rising painter, and the gallery's newest artist is dead. Navigating both the sophisticated high-stakes art world and her personal life in burgeoning Williamsburg, Coley struggles to piece together a complete picture of that lost night. As she digs deeper, inconsistencies emerge between what she remembers and what people are telling her actually happened, and more questions are raised. This does a really good job. First of all, it's like 2 months after 9/11. She's young. She's working at this gallery, and all of a sudden things just start happening that just don't make sense. And I have to say, I didn't completely put together what was happening. And it's really, really an interesting story. High praise for this one. So it's The Gallery Assistant by Kate Belly. Okay, now we've got Gone Before Goodbye, who are two people that we may not have put together to write a book, but hey, this is Book World. We've got Reese Witherspoon writing with Harlan Coben, and Reese isn't picking a book this month. Instead, she's going to be delving into more behind the story. Two of them are going to be on tour together. It's one of our word of mouth selections. I've got like 30 pages left to go, and let's just say done a really good job of writing together. Okay, so what happens in the book? Upside down, after a devastating series of tragedies leads to her medical license being revoked, Army combat surgeon Maggie McCabe has lost her purpose, but not her nerve and not her passion. At her lowest point, she's thrown a lifeline by a former colleague. An elite plastic surgeon whose anonymous clientele demand the best care money can buy, as well as absolute discretion. Halfway across the globe, one of the world's most mysterious men requires unconventional medical assistance. Just desperate and one of few surgeons in the world skilled enough to take this job, Maggie enters his realm of unspeakable opulence and fulfills her end of the agreement. But when the patient suddenly disappears while still under her care, she must become a fugitive herself, or she will be the next one who is da, 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 gone before goodbye. See that da, 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 gone before goodbye? Okay, you get it, folks. Okay. One of our word of mouth selections. We'll into what that means. They've done a good job. If you get out and see them on the road, let me know what it's like. I'm not free the evening. They're going to be in the New York area. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens with this. Next, we've got A Christmas Witness by Charles Todd coming on October 21st. It's December 1921, being signal and a new chief inspector, Rutledge of Scotland Yard, gets the short straw at Christmas time and is called upon by Chief Superintendent Markham to go to the Kentish home of a lord recovering from an attempt on his life. In bed with a concussion, the man is convinced someone is trying to kill him after he claims he was struck by the hoof of a running horse whose rider never stopped to check on him. Struggling with his own demons from the war and misgivings about helping a man who, as a colonel, oversaw the suffering of those on the front lines from afar, Rutledge undertakes an uneasy investigation. As the winter holiday approaches, he becomes increasingly convinced that, here's the line what we hear a lot with thrillers, folks, nothing is as it seems. So now we've got two detectives working at Christmas time. Let's see if we've got a third in our mystery thriller section. Next, we've got King Sorrow, which is coming from Joe Hill on October 21st. If any of you live up in Canada, because we know we usually have some people from Canada signing on with us, Joe Hill is going to be doing some events. He's going to be on the road, and he is going to meet with Linwood Barclay. So this could be a lot of fun to have the two of them together. So Arthur Oakes is a reader, a dreamer, and a student at Rackham College, Maine, renowned for its frosty winters, exceptional library, and beautiful buildings. But his idle and burgeoning romance with Gwen Underfoot is shattered when a local drug dealer and her partner corner him into one of the worst crimes he can imagine, stealing rare books from the college library. Trapped and desperate, Arthur turns to his closest friends for comfort and help, and together they dream up a wild, fantastical scheme to free Arthur from the cruel trap in which he finds himself. Wealthy, irrepressible Colin Wren suggests using the unnerving Crane Journal, bound in the skin of its author, to summon a dragon to do their bidding. But there's nothing simple about dealing with dragons, and their pact to save Arthur becomes a terrifying bargain in which they must choose a new sacrifice for King Sorrow every year or become his next meal. Now, you just knew that some book coming from Joe Hill wasn't going to be some quiet thing, and you knew somebody could possibly become the next meal. And do we notice that the word Wren has come up in a name here again? There you go. As you're paying attention, you want to be noticing these things. Let's see if it can Wren again. Okay, here we've got The Proving Ground from Michael Connolly, and this is a Lincoln lawyer novel. As you know, he switches between writing a Bosch novel, a Ballard novel, a Lincoln lawyer novel, and keeping everything straight in his head. This is coming on October 21st. Following his resurrection walk and needing a new direction, Mickey Howard turns to public interest litigation, filing a civil lawsuit against an artificial intelligence company whose chatbox told a 16-year-old boy that it was okay for him to kill his ex-girlfriend for her disloyalty. Representing the victim's family, Mickey's case explores the most unregulated and exploding AI business and the lack of training guardrails. Along the way, he joins up with a journalist named Jack McAvoy, who wants to be a fly on the wall during the trial in order to write a book about it. But Mickey puts him to work, going through the mountain of printed discovery materials in the case. McAvoy's digging ultimately delivers the key witness, a whistleblower who has been too afraid to speak up. The case is fraught with danger because billions are at stake. It's really interesting because I say the internet started like this. And it was like, oh, AOL, you've got 600,000 people, then a million. Remember AOL? And now AI is like this. I feel like it's this spike and it's every place and it's everywhere. And there was a story on the news a couple of weeks ago about a young kid who killed himself because he was having a conversation with something in AI, like some kind of a bot or whatever. And it was making him feel it was okay to do that. And the parents were suing the company that had created the AI that he was talking to. It's really interesting to see where we're going to go with this because we're going like this. We're not going like this. A little upturn. Okay, we've got The Widow from John Grisham, also coming on October 21st. Simon Latch is a lawyer in rural Virginia making just enough to pay his bills while his marriage slowly falls apart. And then into his office walks Eleanor Barnett, an elderly widow in need of a new will. Apparently, her husband left her a small fortune, and no one knows about it. Once he hooks the richest client of his career, Simon works quietly to keep her wealth under the radar. Soon her story begins to crack, and when she's hospitalized after a car accident, Simon realizes that, here we've got that word, guys, nothing is as it seems. And he finds himself on trial for a crime he swears he didn't commit: murder. Simon knows he's innocent, but he also knows the circumstantial evidence is against him, and he could spend the rest of his life behind bars. And to save himself, he must find the real killer. So we've got The Widow. From Louise Penny, we've got The Black Wolf, on sale on October 28th. Several weeks ago, Chief Inspector Armand Garmache and his team uncovered and stopped a domestic terrorist attack in Montreal, arresting the person behind it, a man they called the Black Wolf. But the relief is short-lived. In a sickening turn of events, Armand has realized that the plot was just beginning, perhaps even a deliberate misdirection, one he fell into. Something deeper and darker, more damaging is planned. Did he in fact arrest the Black Wolf, or are they still sitting out there? Armand is appalled to feel that his mistake has allowed their conspiracy to grow, to gather supporters, to spread lies, manufacture enemies, and feed hatred and division. Still recovering from wounds received in stopping the first attack, Armand is confined to the village of Three Pines, leading a covert investigation from there. So there you've got the Black Wolf. Next, from Nelson DeMille and Alex DeMille, we've got The Tin Men. It's coming on October 28th. Nelson was a really good friend of mine, of our families, and of Bookreporter. Hugely supportive of everything we did. I still remember him walking in the room when we threw our 10th anniversary party, and everybody just like, wow, you even know Nelson DeMille. Alex has been lovely and has asked me to do and to interview him for his inaugural event on October 28th at Barnes and Noble on the Upper West Side. So if anybody's in town and wants to do that, love to see you there. So here what we've got is Armity's CID Special Agents Scott Brody and Maggie Taylor team up for their toughest assignment yet as they're dispatched to Camp Hayden to investigate the death of Major Roger Ames, the chief scientist in charge of the top secret war games being conducted between a platoon of Army Rangers and a fleet of lethal autonomous weapons. Brody and Taylor find themselves at ground zero of the next generation of warfare, and they must untangle the complex web of alliances, animosities, and secret agendas among the men and women of the isolated facility. In a place cut off from the world and exposed to the harsh desert elements, everyone's a suspect. Brody and Taylor must uncover layers of deception to find the hidden hand behind the murder of Major Ames and the real purpose of the activities of Camp Hayden and its terrifying arsenal of next generation weapons. So really, this is Nelson's last book, one he wrote with Alex. and I'm really interested. I want to read it. I purposely was putting it off because I want to make sure my thoughts about it are fresh when I interview Alex, but I'm really looking forward to reading this one and hope people can join us on the 28th. Next, from Karen White, we've got The Lady on the Esplanade. It's coming on November 4th. Okay, so this is one of her Royal Street novels. Nola is ready to focus on starting over in the Big Easy. She wants to get back to work on the renovations of her Creole cottage, and she's eager to launch a new murder house flipping business with contractor, closet psychic, and part-time nemesis Bo Ryan. After a near-death, ghostly encounter and the return of Bo's missing sister, they're confident that the ghost of his mother can finally rest. Noah believes the shotgun house on the famed Esplanade Avenue is a prime fixer-upper for her first project. It may have been the site of a woman's murder and the disappearance of an entire family, but the house will be perfect for new-to-town Cooper Ravenel, who happens to have caused Nola's first heartbreak. That's the least of Nola's worries, though. In addition to the elusive spirit of an angry young woman who accompanied Cooper to New Orleans, the house on Esplanade has its own ghosts, including one that's becoming increasingly dangerous as he tries to hide his dark secrets. Oh, how we love Karen White and her ghosts. She also going to be at the Morristown Festival of Books this weekend, along with her cohorts that are on Team W, Beatrice Williams and Lauren Willig. They're doing an event together. It's an event that I am not going to moderate because I tried to moderate them once when they were doing an event together at HarperCollins, and I got one question in, and then they took it away. So I may duck over to their room and just say, not moderating because they do themselves. It should be lots of fun, though. Next, we got The Perfect Host from Heather Goodenkoff. I've got to get my hands on this one. Madeline and Wes Drake have invited 200 of their closest friends and family to their sprawling horse ranch for the most anticipated event of the year, a Pistols and Pearls gender reveal party, so sensational it's sure to make headlines. But the party descends into chaos when the celebratory explosive misfires, leaving one woman dead and a trail of secrets. As the aftershocks of the bloody party ripple across the small town, Agent Jemmy Saldano is brought into the scene to investigate. Battling his own demons from the past, Saldano unearths a web of deceit spun around the Drakes. The appearance of some unexpected house guests only deepens the mystery, and as tensions mount, it becomes clear that the explosion wasn't just an unlucky accident, but who's the target and why. Now, I get the biggest kick out of seeing gender reveals. Luckily, I'm not following them anymore on social media because if you look at one, you get the next 200 of them. Somehow I'm off that track. But I am just trying to figure out how I would invite 200 of my closest friends. Just think about that number. 200 people you'd want to have. This is not both sides of the wedding, it's yours. Okay, so there you go. Next, we've got some memoirs, biographies, and other nonfiction. We've got some really poignant books here. Starting out with Hostage by Eli Sharabi. This book is just out this week. Last night they did an event and there were 2,000 people at the event. And it was a very significant night. It was October 7th, the second anniversary of the horrific, horrific attack in Israel. So on October 7th, 2023, Hamas terrorists stormed Kibbutz Be'er, shattering the peaceful life Eli Sharabi had built with his British wife, Leon, and their teenage daughters, Noya and Yahel. Dragged barefoot out of his front door while his family watched in horror, he was plunged deep into the suffocating darkness of Gaza's tunnels. As war raged above him, he endured a grueling 491 days in captivity, all the while holding on to the hope that he would one day be reunited with his loved ones. In this first memoir by a released Israeli hostage and the fastest selling book in Israel's history, he offers a searing first-hand account of survival under unimaginable conditions: starvation, isolation, physical beatings, and psychological abuse at the hands of his captors. I think this has got to be a fascinating book. I think that we all want to think about that there are still hostages there, no matter where in the political spectrum you are. And to hear from one person about what they went through at that time, really, really interesting story. I want to get a read at this one. Next, we've got Race Against Terror by Jake Tapper. It's chasing an Al-Qaeda killer at the dawn of the Forever War. It's on sale also this week. And Jake actually will be the closing speaker for anybody in the area who's at the Morristown Festival of Books. It's going to be from, I want to say 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Maybe I have to be corrected on that. 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock at the Mayo Theater. So, what's this book about? June 2011, the case has been cold for nearly 10 years when a terrorist fleeing the Arab Spring turns himself in and confesses to killing American soldiers in Afghanistan. This brazen act sets off an unlikely chain of events that put the entirety of the American justice system to the test. They have the killer, but no evidence to prove the murders happened. Determined to deliver justice, a team led by federal prosecutors Dave Bitcower and Shriv Arlai must travel the globe, uncovering facts across thousands of miles and tracing shocking plots of terror in order to prevent tragedy from striking again. This book shows a man radicalized to enact violence, courageous soldiers who risk their lives for each other, and a diverse set of men and women who work tirelessly to stay one step ahead of disaster. So there we've got Race Against Terror. Next, we've got Future Boy by Michael J. Fox and Nell Fortenberry, coming on October 14th. In early 1985, Michael J. Fox was one of the biggest stars on television. His world was about to get even bigger, but only if he could survive the kind of double duty unheard of in Hollywood. Fox's days were already dedicated to rehearsing and taping the hit sitcom Family Ties. But then the chance of a lifetime came his way. Soon he committed his nights to a new time travel adventure film being directed by Robert Zemeckis and produced by Steven Spielberg, Back to the Future. So his nightly commute from a soundstage at Paramount to the backlot of Universal Studios, from one dream job to another, would become his own space-time continuum. In Future Boy, he tells the remarkable story of playing two landmark roles at the same time. Using new interviews with the cast and crew of both projects, the result is a vividly drawn and eye-opening story of creative achievement by a beloved icon. And you think about like how crazy that schedule must have been and how big it has made him a star like so quickly. Next, we've got Joyride by Susan Orlean. She's coming on October 14th. Susan is also going to be at the Morristown Festival of Books. I told you we've got a great lineup. She's one of the opening day speakers, where there's a lineup of 4 speakers for the adult area, and she's one of them. And Joyride is a magic carpet ride through her life and career, where every day is an opportunity for discovery and every moment holds the potential for wonder. Throughout her storied career, Orlean's curiosity draws her to explore the most ordinary and extraordinary of places, from going deep inside the head of a regular 10-year-old boy for a legendary profile, The American Man Aged 10, to reporting on a woman who owns 27 tigers, from capturing the routine magic of Saturday night to climbing Mount Fuji. She takes us through a process of dreaming up ideas, managing deadlines, connecting with sources, chasing every possible lead, confronting writer's block and self-doubt, and crafting the perfect lead, a Susan specialty. So there you've got a memoir from her. Next, we've got Finding My Way by Malala Yousafzai, which is coming on to the public stage at 15. After the Taliban's brutal attack on her life, Malala quickly became an international icon, known for bravery and resilience. But away from the cameras and crowds, she spent years struggling to find her place in an unfamiliar world. And now, for the first time, she's taking us behind the headlines. Finding My Way is a story of friendship and first love, of anxiety and self-discovery, of trying to stay true to yourself when everyone wants to tell you who you are. Malala traces her path from high school loner to reckless college student to a young woman at peace with her past. Through candid, often messy moments like nearly failing exams, getting ghosted, and meeting the love of her life, she reminds us that the real role models aren't perfect, they're human. And I think that's that last line is a really important thing for us to keep in mind. There's so many times when we see people only as role models and think, oh, nothing goes wrong in their lives. They don't do anything wrong or whatever. But think about being on the public stage at 15 and where that really meant from there for her. So there we've got Malala's latest. Next, we've got Sumon Kidd, Writing, Creativity, and Soul. When she was in high school, home economics teacher wrote a list of potential occupations for women on the blackboard: teacher, nurse, librarian, secretary. Writer was nowhere to be found. On that day, kids shut the door on her writerly aspirations and would not revisit the topic until many years later when she announced to her husband and two children that she was going to become a writer. And so began her journey into the mysteries and methods of the writerly life. In writing Creativity and Soul, Suman Kidd will pull from her own life and the lives of other writers, including Virginia Woolf, Maya Angelou, and Harper Lee, to provide a map for anyone who has ever felt lost as a writer. And you know her as the author of The Secret Life of Bees. Then from Zadie Smith, we've got Dead and Alive coming on October 28th. This eagerly awaited new collection, Zadie Smith brings her unique skills as an essayist to bear on a range of subjects that have captured her attention in recent years. She takes an exhilarating close look at artist Toyin. I'm going to try and do this one. Tom, I did not look this one up. Oji Adulatola. Let's try that. Kara Walker and Celia Paul. She invites us to the movies to see and think about Tar, to New York to reflect on spontaneous moments that connect us. She takes us on a walk down Kilburn High Road in her beloved Northwest London and welcomes us to mourn with the passing of writers Joan Didion, Martin Amis, Hilary Mantel, Philip Roth, and Toni Morrison. And she considers changes of government on both sides of the Atlantic and the meeting of the commons in all of our lives. So there we've got Dead and Alive, essays from Zadie Smith. And we've got Book of Lives by Margaret Atwood. Raised ruggedly independent, scientifically minded parents, etymologist father, dietitian mother, Margaret Atwood spent most of each year in the wild forest of northern Quebec. This child was unfettered and nomadic, sometimes isolated, but also thrilling and beautiful. From this unconventional start, she unfolds the story of her life, linking seminal moments to the books that have shaped our literary landscape. From the cruel year that spawned Cat's Eye to the Orwellian 1980s Berlin, where she wrote The Handmaid's Tale, to the pages bursting with bohemian gatherings, her magical life with the wildly charismatic writer Graham Gibson. Oh, I'm sorry, guys, today. And major political turning points. We meet poets, bears, Hollywood actors, and larger-than-life characters straight from the pages of an Atwood novel. So do you see how many people are writing their own personal stories this year, like memoirs of sorts? Next, we've got Bread of Angels coming from Patti Smith on November 4th. God whispers through a crease in the wallpaper, writes Patti Smith in this moving account of her life. Post-World War II childhood unfolds in a condemned housing complex where we enter the child's world of the imagination. Smith, the captain of her loyal and beloved sibling army, vanquishes bullies, communes with the king of tortoises, and searches for sacred silver pennies. The most intimate of her memoirs, Bread of Angels, takes us through her teenage years, where the first glimmers of art and romance take hold. Arthur Rimbaud and Bob Dylan emerge as creative role models as she begins to write poetry and then lyrics, ultimately merging both into songs of iconic recordings such as Horses, Wave, and Easter. So there, Patti Smith, a memoir. December titles to look forward to. Yes, we promised you guys we're doing this. Got the award coming from Matthew Pearl on December 2nd. David Trench is an aspiring novelist in Cambridge, Massachusetts, trying to navigate his ambitions in a place that has writers around every corner. He lives in an apartment above a very famous author named Silas Hale. Beneath his celebrated image, Silas is a bombastic, vindictive monster who refuses to allow his new neighbor even to make eye contact with him. But young David wins a prestigious award for his new book, and suddenly Silas is interested, if intensely spiteful. But soon the administrator of the award comes to David with alarming news, forcing the writer into a desperate set of choices. Fate intervenes with shocking consequences. So there you go. You've got the award. We're in award season for books, so this is an interesting time for be talking about an award. Next, we've got Huguette, and this is coming from Cara Black. And yes, I looked at that pronunciation, people. Be very proud of me, Huguette. After liberation, spring 1945, 17-year-old Huguette Farr is a survivor. The war has taken everything from her, both her parents, her sense of safety, and now pregnant and on the lam, she cannot return to her childhood home in Paris. Forced to reinvent herself, she must outrun her father's enemies who want her dead. After narrowly avoiding jail time, thanks to the help of a kind hearted police officer named Claude Cloudou, Huguette lands a job assisting a legendary film director. As her role develops from helping him with chores to cooking his books, she sees an opportunity to break free from the ghosts of her past once and for all. So it's a novel of liberation. So you've got The Bird Watcher, which is coming from Jacqueline Michard. It's coming on December 9th. When she's convicted of a double murder, Felicity Wilde, a brilliant grad student turned high price escort, declares, "I may not be innocent, but I'm innocent of this." Renee Bigelow never doubted it. A jury trial may have given Felicity a life sentence, but Renee knows her childhood best friend is not capable of murder. So Renee, a journalist, decides to use her deep connections to Felicity's past to unravel the truth. The more she uncovers, the more Renee is convinced that the story prosecution told is wrong, despite the puzzling fact that Felicity said not one single word in her own defense. But there's one thing Renee knows for certain: Felicity would never lie. So there we've got The Bird Watcher, and we'll see how birds fly into this. Oh, that was clever. I didn't even think about what I did. Okay, Laura Dave, she's back. She's back with The First Time I Saw Him. It's coming on January 6th. 5 years after her husband Owen disappeared, Hannah Hall and her stepdaughter Bailey have settled into a new life in Southern California. Together, they forge a relationship with Bailey's grandfather, Nicholas, and they're putting the past aside behind them. But when Owen shows up at Hannah's new exhibition, she knows that she and Bailey are in danger again. The thrilling drama unfolds. Haley and Bailey are forced to go on the run in a relentless race to keep their past from catching up with them. Hannah risks everything to get Bailey to safety and finds there just might be one way back to Owen. So there's The First Time I Saw Him. It Francesca on our team read this and absolutely loved it. She says you're going to learn a lot more about Owen from this. And yes, this is also being made into an Apple series with most of the same cast that you saw in The Last Thing He Told Me. So it all goes on and on, folks. Next, we've got Skylark from Paula McLean, also coming on January 6th. It's chronicling two parallel journeys of defiance and rescue that connect in ways both surprising and deeply moving. In 1664, Aulette Voland is the daughter of a master dyer at the famed Gobelin Tapestry Works, who secretly dreams of escaping her circumstances and creating her own masterpiece. When her father is unjustly imprisoned, Aulet's efforts to save him lead to her own confinement in a notorious, let's try this one, Salpêtrière asylum, where thousands of women are held captive and cruelly treated. But within its grim walls, she discovers a small group of brave allies and possibly a life bigger than she ever imagined. Now we go to 1939. Christoph Larsen is a medical student beginning his psychiatric residency in Paris, whose neighbors on the Rue de Goblins are a Jewish family who have fled Poland. When Nazi forces descend on the city, Christoph becomes their only hope for survival, even as his work as a doctor is jeopardized. And you know Paula as the author of The Paris Wife. Next, we've got The Storms from Rachel Hawkins. She's the best-selling author of The Villa. It's coming January 6th as well. St. Medard's Bay, Alabama is famous for three things: the deadly hurricanes that regularly sweep into town, the Rosalie Inn, a century-old hotel that survived every one of those storms, and Lo Bailey, the local girl infamously accused of the murder of her lover, political scion Landon Fitzroy, during Hurricane Marie, in 1984. When Geneva Corliss, the current owner of the Rosalie Inn, hears a writer is coming to town to research the crime that put St. Medard's Bay on the map, she's less interested in solving the whodunit than in now successful a true crime book might help the struggling inn's bottom line. Crime or get your inn fixed. But to her surprise, August Fletcher doesn't come to set Medward's Bay alone. With him is none other than Lo Bailey herself. Lo says she returned to her hometown to clear her name and for all, once and for all. Sorry, let's do that again. Lo says she returned to her hometown to clear her name once and for all, but the closer Geneva gets to both Lo and August, the more she wonders if Lo is actually back to settle some old scores. So there you've got the storms. From Bad Meltzer, we've got The Viper. It's coming on January 6th. And what we love about this is it's a Zig and Nola novel. We actually reviewed Brad's first book when he first started writing. It was about 29 years ago, believe it or not. And he still remembers that we reviewed the book and how much that meant to him. And I find that really interesting. Whenever I write him, he goes, I remember. And I was like, yes, it's so cool. Andrew Feshmeicher is a master at hiding. He spent decades concealing a secret that could get him killed. So when he's diagnosed with a terminal disease, he heads for the local funeral home, carrying the blue suit he eventually wants to be buried in. But what no one knows is that Feshmeicher secretly tucks something inside, turning the suit into a final, untraceable hiding spot. It's the perfect plan until Fetch is brutally murdered by a mysterious killer who will stop at nothing to find the priceless object hidden in the suit. Wasting no time, the cunning but unconventional Roddy LaPointe opens an investigation into Fetch's murder, recruiting help from his friend, the brilliant Zigorowski. But it doesn't take long for Zig to discover the real reason Roddy cares so much about this case. Fetch's death is tied to Roddy's mother, who was murdered decades earlier. So there we've got The Viper. Next, from Ashley Elston, who you know is the New York Times bestselling author of First Lie Wins, we've got Anatomy of an Alibi coming on January 20th. Francesca's already read this one and absolutely loved it. Francesca's reading ahead. I'm reading next week. I really need somebody reading ahead and saying, yes, 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 you're going to love this. Camille Bayliss appears to have a picture-perfect life. She married a hotshot lawyer, Ben, and is the daughter of a wealthy Louisiana family. Note here that Ashley's from Louisiana. Only nothing is as it seems, that line that we hear again and again in mysteries and thrillers. Camille believes that Ben has been hiding dirty secrets for years. She can't find proof because he tracks her every move. Aubrey Price has been haunted by the terrible night that changed her life a decade ago, and she's convinced Benjamin Bayliss knows something about it. Living in a house full of criminals, Aubrey understands there's more than one way to get to the truth, and she may have found the best way in. Aubrey and Camille hatch a plan. It sounds simple. For 12 hours, Aubrey will take Camille's place. Camille will spy on Ben, and the two women will get the answers they desperately seek. Except the next morning, Ben is found murdered. Both women need an airtight alibi, but only one of them has it. So there we've got Anatomy of an Alibi, and I can just imagine how Ashley twists us up with this story. Next, from Alice Feeney, also coming on the 20th, we've got My Husband's Wife. Eden Fox, an artist on the brink of her big break, sets off for a run before her first exhibition. When she returns to the home she recently moved into, Spyglass, an enchanting old house in Hope Falls, nothing is as seems it should be. Her key doesn't fit. A woman eerily similar to her answers the door, and her husband insists the stranger is his wife. One house, one husband, two women, someone's lying. 6 months earlier, a reclusive Londoner named Bertie, reeling from a life-changing diagnosis, inherits Spyglass. This unexpected gift from a long-lost grandmother brings her closer to the pretty seaside village of Hope Falls. But then Bertie stumbles upon a shadowy London clinic that claims to be able to predict a person's date of death, including her own. Secrets start to unravel. And as the line between truth and lies blurs, Bertie feels compelled to right some old wrongs. So there we've got My Husband's Wife. And Chris Whitaker said to this, clever, twisting, I loved it. So there we've got, I can read really tiny print. It's like an eye test. Next, we've got The Final Score from Don Winslow coming on January 27th. It's a collection of 6 all-new short stories from Don Winslow. The multi-million-dollar casino heist is impossible. That's what makes it irresistible to a legendary robber facing the rest of his life in prison for his final score. An ambitious, hardworking, college-bound teenager has a side job delivering illegal booze to the Sunday list until a crooked cop, a seductive customer, and a fake guru threaten to end his dreams. Two wise guys tell each other a true story over breakfast at a diner. It's all laughs until someone else has to pick up the check. An otherwise honest patrolman must make an excruciating choice in the North Wing. The entitled substance addicted movie star, the surfer PI Boone Daniels and his crew are hired to babysit in the lunch break is a problem. She also has a problem. Someone wants her dead. And finally, one terrible momentary mistake that a devoted family man makes sends him to prison and on a collision course between the man he wants to be and the killer he's forced to become to survive. So there you got a lot. 6 stories coming from Don Winslow. Robert Dugoni's back with Her Cold Justice. In a quiet South Seattle neighborhood, a suspected drug smuggler and his girlfriend are murdered in their home when a young man named Michael Westbrook is accused of the brutal double homicide. His uncle, J.P. Harrison, turns to Kira Dugan to defend him. The evidence is circumstantial. Michael worked with one of his victims. Drugs were found in his possession, and he bolted from authorities. Ruthless star prosecutor Anne Tran has gotten convictions on much less. With the testimony of 2 prison informants, the case looks grave. But Kira never concedes defeat. To free her client, she must dig deep before Tran crushes both of them. As the investigation gets more twisted with each new find, Kira is swept up in a mystery with far-reaching consequences. This case isn't just murder, it's looking like conspiracy, and getting justice for Michael could be the most dangerous promise Kira has ever made. So there you go, the clerical justice. Next, we've got Missing Sam coming from 3 Amagar. It is coming on January 27th. One night after a party, old grievances suffer between married couples, Aaliyah and Sam, and the night ends badly with a heated argument. Sam goes for a run early the next morning to clear her head and doesn't come back. Aaliyah reports her wife missing, but as a gay Muslim daughter of immigrants, she can't escape the scrutiny and suspicion of those around her. Scared and furious and feeling isolated as strangers and acquaintances alike doubt her innocence, Aaliyah makes one wrong choice after another. She must fight to prove her innocence in the public eye, even as she is torn between her fear that Sam is dead and her desire to find and save her wife. But is safety ever truly possible for them? So there we've got Missing Sam. Vigil is coming from George Saunders on January 27th. Not for the first time, Jill Dahl Blaine finds herself hurtling towards Earth, reconstituting as she falls, right down to her favorite black pumps. She plummets towards her newest charge, yet another soul she must usher into the afterlife, and lands headfirst in the circular drive of his ornate mansion. She's performed this sacred duty 343 times since her own death. Her charges, as a rule, have been greatly comforted in their final moments. But this charge, she soon discovers, isn't like the others. The powerful K.J. Boone will not be consoled because he has nothing to regret. He lived a big, bold life, and the world is better for it, isn't it? Crowds of people, animals, worldly and otherworldly, alive and dead, arrive, clamoring for a reckoning. Birds swarm the dying man's room. A black calf grazes on the love seat. A man from a distant ravaged village materializes, and 2 oil business cronies from decades past show up with chilling plans for Boone's post-death future. So there we've got Vigil, and there's a lot going on there. You know him as the best-selling author of Lincoln in the Bardo. Okay, we've got our notable paperback releases. We've got John Lewis, Magic Season, A Sun Story from Wade Rouse, Precipice from Robert Harris, Lee Child's Safe Enough, David Baldacci's To Die For, John Banville's The Drowned, Jenny Slate's Life Form. Okay, this next one it's Chuck Palahniuk's book, and I can't see what the title is, but you know it's his book.
Actually, Shock Induction.
Thank you very much,
Shock
Tom.
Induction.
Thank you.
I know it could not be any smaller on there.
Could not be any slower. Let's not see the title. You're just going to buy it because it's Chuck. Andre Ackerman's Roman Year. This book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. Sandra Brown's Blood Moon, and Don't Be a Stranger by Susan Mino. I think I got them all. Yes. And the on sale dates are below them if they're not on sale already available. Okay, I'm up to 32 bets on selections so far. So this is what I've got. I'm writing copy as quickly as I possibly can. Um, I'm trying to get an interview with Lily King about Heart the Lover. We're off on a holiday on Monday, but I think it's the only day I can get her, and I'm going to try and take her up on that. Um, Pictures of him. We'll talk about that again in a little bit. Please don't lie. The What Happened to Lori Lovely, the break-in, and the correspondent. So we've got a really treasure of books here. I've really had a good time reading this year. And next, we've got two recent Book Reporter Talks to Video podcasts. The first is with Virginia Evans about the correspondent. This is a book that came out, I want to say in April, and hit the New York Times list like 2 weeks ago. It is a book people are talking about. It's just fabulous. It's got all different narrators. There's a woman who's living in her home and she's going blind, and she writes correspondence to everyone. It's not letters, it's correspondence. And as she corresponds, each of the different people are responding and telling stories, and you're seeing something really big going on that's happening in her life. I highly recommend the audio. It's got a whole cast of people speaking, and really don't be afraid of it. Somebody said to me last night, "Oh, I don't know if I want to read something with that many narrators." They each narrate their own story, and it's just absolutely tremendous. Hank Philby Ryan, All This Could Be Yours. It was your number one choice. We've got an interview with her as well, and we really had fun talking about this book and what it's like to go on tour. She's very funny about that. Oh, okay. We've got a reader survey that is up on the site right now. You can complete it and enter to win a $50 gift card to the bookstore of your choice. It is up on the site. It's going to be in newsletters. You have until October 24th. And it's really important for us if you can do this, because everybody, when we go to meet with them, says, "So who are your readers?" So the more that we can tell people about you, how you read, what you read, the easier it is for us to sort of say, this is our audience. You were fabulous with the results in 2024. People are commenting on it. And to be honest with you, we came up with the idea of doing this just like last week because we realized 2024 data is a little old at this point. Let's hear what you're doing now and see if there are any changes of what's going on. So we really, if you could go out and answer the survey, we would completely appreciate it. And we also are celebrating the 25th anniversary of Reading Group Guides. And as a result, we're doing our 25th anniversary book group survey. Enter this one if you're in a book club, and you could win a $250 gift card to the bookstore of your choice. We're looking for book clubs to tell us what they're doing, how they're reading, what's happening today. We have not done a study on this in 10 years. We did a little short thing during the pandemic, but now we really want to see what's happening in book clubs. It's interesting, when we were putting this together, we realized that a decade ago, what we were really thinking about was, were people waiting for the paperback to read the book? And now we're seeing that people are choosing it for their book club when the hardcover's out, when they're reading the ebook, when they're reading the audio. There's no waiting around. So as a result, we want to see what you're thinking about now. And the more that we can tell publishers about trends that are happening and what we're seeing with our readers and what we're seeing with a group like book groups, the better we are. So we really appreciate if you take both surveys if you're in a book group or just the one. Okay, word of mouth. Yes, we've got this contest right now. You can win Gone Before Goodbye by Reese Witherspoon and Harlan Coben, and Mitch Albums Twice. All you've got to do is go in and tell us what you're reading, a little bit about it, by Friday, October 17th at noon. And that Friday, October 17th gives you some time to be able to do this, but you don't want to lose out on this contest. Okay, we have till tomorrow at noon, to talk to us about the world of Marie Benedict with your book club and win copies of her books. One winner is going to win all 8 of Marie Benedict's solo novels, along with her novella, Agent 355. I have the books right here. 3 additional readers are going to win copies of wait a second, the Queens of Crime for their book group, up to 12 copies for your book group. So you've got to enter on Reading Group Guides by tomorrow, October 9th at noon. And we're really looking forward to seeing, what your answers are to this. It's something where we're trying something new to really explore like an author and see how you're reading your books. Have you read them on your own? Are you reading them with your book club? And also, which one was your favorite? So if you can step out and do that, you're in line for some nice prizes. Okay, our next book group, Bookaccino Live book group event is going to be with Paula Hawkins. She's going to discuss The Blue Hour, which was one of my book reporter bets on selections last year that's now available in paperback. Yeah, this will be next Wednesday, or no, it's going to be Wednesday, October 22nd, which is 2 weeks, at 8 o'clock at night. Sign up is available on Book Reporter and on Reading Group Guides. Okay, so you've got that event to mark on your calendars coming up. And we have a very special event coming, a Bookaccino Live book group event in November in the afternoon. And we're doing that for a reason because Claire Leslie Hall lives in the UK and doesn't want to talk to us when it's 1 in the morning for her. So we are going to discuss Broken Country, which was a Reese's Book Club pick and one of my book reporter bets on selections. I interviewed her the other night, besides interviewing her when her book first came out at an event in Barnes & Noble in Paramus, and she was fantastic. And we also talked about the two books of hers that have been repackaged in paperback and are out. So you have an opportunity now to have three books. It's okay, Pictures of Him and Tom, remind me the other title.
Days You Were Mine.
Days You Were Mine. Okay. Now, I learned, and you're hearing it like here, Days You Were Mine, the idea of that was actually based on the fact that her husband, John, was adopted. And in the story, there's an adoption that takes place, and it sort of fueled her to write that book. If you read Pictures of Him after you read Broken Country, you'll see that was her first book, the early like kernels of how she was going to think about and write Broken Country. So there's a really interesting, thing you can do if you're with a book group and you're reading Broken Country, pick up the other two books as well, because what you really can see is really quickly what happened with an author during her writing career. And her first book, I believe she said, took 20 years to come out. That's how long writing was going back and forth. So, very, very, very interesting story. Come back and listen to my earlier interview with her, but mostly you want to join us for this afternoon event. And our next Bookaccino Live book group preview, I can't believe it's going to be in November. It's going to be November 12th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We're going to preview books from November 11th through January 6th, and we're going to peek ahead at February 2026. Sign up for this event is available on Book Reporter and Reading Group Guides. Also, remember, we have our TBR Network site, and there's an events page there, and you can always find the events and sign up there. So thank you very much for joining us, listening to what's coming out. We hope you find books that you want to read, love, discuss, and enjoy. So thanks, everybody.